tonight's episode of Ask Leah. On tonight's episode, I'm answering a question sent to me by the lovely Joanne. Joanne asked me to speak tonight about some tips for how to get organised. Now, I went back to Joanne to find out more about what she meant with getting organised. And it turns out Joanne's studying at the moment and she's finding it a bit hard going. She's finding it quite overwhelming and that she's procrastinating on her work a bit. And she said, I feel like I'm just not organised and it all seems too much. And as I'm sure many of the people watching this tonight have experienced as well, when we've got a big task like that and it feels overwhelming, it can put us in a position where we just think, well, bugger it, I'm just going to sit on the couch and watch Netflix instead. It's just too big to even tackle or start. So when I got to the bottom of what Joanne was really asking, I thought it would be a great topic to address tonight. So I wanted to share some tips with you. And the interesting thing is they may not be the tips you expect. Sure, I'll get to some of the really practical organisation, how to chip away at a big project tips. But where I want to start is with some self-reflection. Because here's the thing. I can share with you tips and tricks for how to be more effective and not procrastinate and be organised. But if you don't go to the root of what the problem is, even though you know the tips and tricks and strategies, you won't do them. And I am totally guilty of this as well, okay? Knowing and doing are two very, very different things. So, first thing you need to do is ask yourself, what's really going on here? What is holding me back? What's underneath that sense of overwhelm? Is it fear? Is it self-doubt? Is it perfectionism? Okay. Do any of those things ring true for you? It might be something else entirely. But really consider what is underlying all of these things. Because essentially what you want to know is, how do I self-sabotage? Unless you know how you are going to self-sabotage, you won't know how to fix it. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to getting organised and improving your studying. You need to know what you do to undermine yourself first. Once you know that, then you can get into some strategies to address it. And in terms of what to do, you want to come up with a plan for your studying that counteracts the key things that are likely to undo you. So let me give you an example. I actually experienced really similar to your problem, Joanne, at the thought of writing my book. Okay, I wrote my book, Soft is the New Hard, when it was crazy in my life. There was a lot going on, the kids, my husband, work, and I said, I want to write this book, but geez, that's huge. When am I going to have time for that? It was overwhelming. So I broke the task down and I was smart about how I did this, because I went, what are my roadblocks? And I went, time is a big roadblock, thinking that I don't have time and wanting it to be perfect. So some of the things that I set up, I said, right, Leah, you're going to write first thing when you get up in the morning, because otherwise you get distracted and other things take importance. So it has to be the first thing you do. To fit it in, you're going to get up earlier in the morning. I also set myself 500 words a day. I knew saying to myself, oh, you're going to sit and write for hours was never going to happen. 500 words a day was achievable. That is not even a full page, okay? The other thing I did, knowing that I tend to be a perfectionist and would just want to rework and rework to get it perfect, I said, you're going to write 500 words a day and you are not allowed to go back over your work, girl. Okay? So that became my plan to make it happen. So Joanne, I want you to reflect on this as well. What plan can you put in place? What I would encourage you to do is come up with some dot points of really practical, specific things that you're going to try. They won't necessarily work, but you're going to try them. And the key is to then start. Break it down. Don't say, I've got to study all day, or, oh, I've got to get through all of this stuff. Because if it's overwhelming, you won't do any of it. Maybe set a timer and say, I'm going to do 1 hour of study 4 days a week. Okay? And you might think, oh, but that's not enough. I've got to do more than that to be able to get there. Here's the thing. 1 hour 4 times a week is better than the none that you do if you're overwhelmed and unorganized and procrastinate. So it might be that you set a timer and you do it first thing when you get up, if that works for you. And before you have breakfast or anything, you do an hour. It might be that you say, oh, that's not going to work for me, Leah. I need to start even smaller. It might be that you say, I'm going to do half an hour a day, or that I'm going to do an hour a day in 15-minute blocks. It doesn't have to be like this forever. The key is to get you going and to break through whatever it is that's holding you back. A great book to read that will help you with this and to create new habits, because that's really what you want to do. You don't just want to go hard and then do nothing. You want to create this new habit of studying. So a great book in this space is James Clear's Atomic Habits. I'm sure some of you watching tonight have already read this book. Brilliant book about how you really do chunk things down. An example that James gives in the book is a guy who wanted to start exercising more. And how he started, he realized what most people who start an exercise habit realize, the hardest bit is actually getting to the gym. Once you're there, you can do it. But getting to the gym is the hard part. So how he chunked his plan down to start with was to go to the gym, I think it was 4 or 5 days a week, for 5 minutes. And he wasn't allowed to stay. He had to literally go in, start one exercise, after 5 minutes, walk out. And you might think, well, that sounds ridiculous. But here's what he was doing. He was creating the habit. And then as the weeks went on, of course you don't want to be there just for 5 minutes. And he then started stretching and building it and building it. But the beautiful thing was, the hardest part, getting started, was done. There's a lot of other tips, Joanne, that I've shared in previous episodes, and happy to share a couple more with you now. The top 3 is a good one, working out what are the top 3 things you want to achieve that day. Setting a timer is a good one, and working in sprints. Don't be a slave at your desk or your computer for hours and hours on end. Work in sprints and have regular breaks. It may be that you work in 25-minute blocks and get up and then have a 5-minute break after that 25-minute block, and you do 4 of them in a row, and then you take 15 minutes. That's the Pomodoro technique. Here's the thing. The reason I'm not going to give you a whole heap of real organization and study tips, apart from those few to get you started, is because if procrastination is your issue, what people tend to do is procrastinate by getting organized. So they'll go out and buy all the fancy material. They'll go and deck out their whole study area and make it look beautiful, because then the inspiration will surely hit. And it doesn't. The best advice I can give you is start and create a habit. But do that thinking first about what's really underlying this. Joanne, good luck. I hope this has been helpful for you. If you have a communication or soft skill question that you would like answered, please send it through. Hi, Hannah. Thank you for joining me. So please do send it through. I love answering them. I will be on radio bright and early tomorrow morning chatting to Bryce on Gippsland FM about some of the reflections we can do right now and learnings from what we've been through in lockdown. So tune in 6:45 tomorrow morning on ABC Gippsland, which is 104.7 FM. Did I say Gippsland FM or ABC Gippsland? I think I stuffed that up. Gippsland FM are on tomorrow, ABC Gippsland in a few weeks. And I shall see you all next week. I obviously need to get some sleep. Thanks everyone. Have a great night. Cheers.